Welcome to Conlang Critique, the show that gets facts wrong about my favourite conlangs. I'm Jan Lee Kinney, and in this episode we'll be looking at an a posteriori speedlang, Kanguçwan. First things first. Kanguçwan is an a posteriori language created by Lycan in 2023 for a speedlang competition. A description of it is available as a PDF online, or as a video on this very channel. Wait, what's this? Black text? White background? Long, involved videos full of varyingly accurate linguistic information? Have I been unknowingly copying and inverting this guy's style this entire time? Actually, no, that's dumb. We have a lot to cover, so let's get to the phonology. The consonants are p, t, ch, k, ch, f, s, sh, h, h, j, m, n, ñ, ng, ng, r, w, l, y, l, a. And the vowels e, u, e, o, a. Also, Kanguçwan is a tonal language, which I think is a nice touch. Its tonemes are a. Like most speedlangs, this one had constraints on it on what its phonology could be like, namely, make a griddy consonant inventory, i.e. one that forms a fully filled or mostly filled grid pattern when put in a place/manner table. The griddier the better. Open brackets, bonus, close brackets. Make it a funny shape instead, or something, like a donut. Have a peripheral, as a meaningful place of articulation, contrasting with coronal or linguingual or central or whatever. Scoring the phonology against these criteria, I'd say that it's not very griddy. It's also not a funny shape, like a donut. Looks more like a rib cage. Did I just say rib cage instead of rib cage? That's a horrifying image. Maybe the shape is an Easter egg explained in the original material, but we don't have time to go into that now. According to the chart, there's a peripheral group which contrasts with the central group, and apparently the difference is that whenever central items are adjacent to each other, they will always assimilate to the place of articulation of the second element. And syllables are maximally CVC, so I guess central items will bump up against each other occasionally. So I guess that's fine. As for the orthography, it's not terrible, but I don't love the use of C with an accent for an affricate and with a cedilla for a fricative. Like, I get it, they're all palatal, so using the base glyph of a C makes sense, but if you're going to do that, why is the palatal nasal a digraph and not N with an accent, or C with a tilde on it? Maybe J for the palatal affricate and... Wait, I don't have time to correct all this, and it doesn't matter because romanization is not a criterion to judge the speedlang by. I just have strong opinions about orthography. The vocabulary of Kanguçwan is mostly words from Proto-Austronesian, many of which are highly dubious as reconstructions, shunted through a bunch of sound changes. There is, however, also a reasonable number of Southern Chinese loanwords, most of which have a slightly derogatory meaning compared to their original meaning. For instance, sakfan went from eat to eat noisily, cheeto went from know to misunderstand, kesik went from explain to condescend, and leafy went from leave to leave without paying or make a mess and not clean it. Ouch. But that's semantic drift for you, especially when motivated by cross-cultural tensions. Vocabulary is actually one of the judging criterion. Specifically, make a lexicon showcase of a minimum of 5, open brackets 5, close brackets, lexemes, in which you detail specific lexical items. Some ideas. Explore collexification and collocation. Provide an overview of a certain semantic space such as smell, open brackets 1, 2, 3, close brackets, emotions or events of putting and taking. Make a semantic division tree/web/cloud/thing and detail some members of it and how they differ. For verbs, you could detail some subset like in valpal, open brackets examples from Japanese, close brackets, showing their forms, coding frames, alternations, and so on. And yeah, the Kanguçwan material discusses those Chinese learns, along with telling time, which was overall boring with the exception of my favourite lexical item, sapitim, 12 o'clock, which can be reduplicated to mean sapitim, meaning throughout the day and night. How question words change when asking about the agent of an action in the past tense, kinda boring. The mysterious morpheme tassa, which apparently is all about medicine and getting drunk and being nervous. Wait, does this phoneme signify self-medicated anxiety? And a section on botanical polysemies, where words for plants and their parts are repurposed to describe parts of machines. Actually pretty cool. Strictly, the creator of Kanguçwan did not explore collexification nor collocation, didn't provide an overview of a certain semantic space, unless the botanical polysemies count, which they don't, did not make a semantic division tree/web/cloud/thing, and totally ignored verbs, in the vocab. We'll talk about them in the grammar section in a minute. Despite this, I think the vocab section did meet the criterion in spirit, so I'll give that a pass. Kanguçwan's grammar is, well, let's just describe it. Nouns fall into 5 classes: human males, human females, animates, inanimates, and everything else. This is defined semantically. Ghosts fall into class 3, unless you know whose ghost it is, in which case it'll be class 1 or 2. Nouns are also masculine or feminine, which triggers corresponding agreement structures, but this gets a bit weird in the plurals. Look at this table. Nouns pluralize through full reduplication and can take a possessive suffix which agrees with its possessor. The only noteworthy thing about the pronouns is that they have a first-person plural inclusive-exclusive distinction, and that they are clearly related to the possessive affixes. Verbs are a bit of a nightmare. Past tense verbs agree with their agents, while present tense verbs agree with their objects and have a present tense infix. Verbs can take a definiteness prefix for when the object of the verb is something that everyone knows is being talked about, and verbs can be reduplicated to indicate an imperfective aspect. There's also a stative aspect prefix ma, which basically makes adjectives. One of the Speedlang judging criterion was, have the behavior of verb agreement changed drastically between different TAM categories, e.g. changing agreement targets, the agreement features, or the structural means by which agreement is expressed on the verb. This criterion has definitely been achieved, because this verbal system is an absolute mess. There's some justification about how the system arose, something diachronics, but I'll let you viewers go investigate that if you want on your own. This is the part of the episode where I'm supposed to give a score. However, the system I've decided to use for Conlang critique doesn't give Conlang's numerical scores, but instead ranks them. Of course, since this is the first Conlang I've reviewed, I can't compare it to any others. Bearing that in mind, Kanguçwan is the best Conlang I've reviewed so far. Haha. Don't like and don't subscribe.